All right, here goes. Charlie Kirk in full context. One of the main chief complaints from Charlie Kirk supporters when all of these controversial statements came out is that they were all taken out of context. You can't just take a mere soundbite and run with it. You need to hear the statement, hear the debate in full context. Well, we're going to do that here today. We're not here to celebrate Kirk. We're not here to call him a racist. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to take his statement and see if we can break it apart and go into the mindset on it. And of course, you'll be able to say what you need to say in the comments, whether you disagree, whether you agree, or how you feel in general. But we're going to take Charlie Kirk in full context. And we're going to take likely one of the most controversial statements you're hearing floating around now that he's passed away, with folks suggesting that this shows that Charlie Kirk was intolerant. We'll leave it up to you to decide. The statement we're going to tackle is Kirk stating, when I get on an airplane, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, I hope he's qualified. Now he's talking about DEI and things of that nature. We'll let you hear him debating an individual that questioned him on this, an African-American gentleman. This is in full context, so it's going to be a few minutes long. And then we're going to break down everything that was stated, and we'll certainly tackle your responses in the comments. Charlie Kirk in full context. Here goes.
So I got to sign him ahead of time. Yes, sir.
I got you. How you doing, Charlie? Everybody good? That's good. Okay, I got my phone out. That's cool for you? Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to quote you real quick. You said, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Are you going to do that?
Yeah, I mean that is correct, yeah.
That's correct? Okay, so can we both agree?
What was the context of what I said, though?
What was the context? I don't even want to get into DEI because your opinion on DEI, it doesn't really help it in this case. So if the context between what you brought up was that you believe that...
Because they were being hired because they were black.
Okay, so can we both agree that every single pilot, whether black, white, whoever, has to go through FAA certification?
No, actually, new lawsuit shows that black pilots and female pilots have the standards being relaxed.
No, sir, can we agree at the time of February 29th or 2023 when you said it at the time? No?
No, actually I said it, that's why you don't know the context, is that new lawsuits were showing that they were relaxing the standards for air traffic control and pilots in order to meet the standards.
The context of that was diversity, equity, and inclusion. What does that have to do with hiring?
Everything. DEI definitionally is that we will hire more of a race versus a different race. So, for example, United Airlines said that they want 50% of their new pilots to either be women or black. Okay. Currently, just so you understand, it's like 8%. So they want to go from 8% to 50%. Okay. And every time DEI is implemented, every single time, the lowering of standards occurs. Every single time.
Lowering of standards?
Correct. So can I prove it to you? We both want excellence, right? Okay. If you and I said, hey, we want 50% of the new people going in the NBA are white. Okay. Would the NBA drop in its standard?
No.
No.
The National Basketball League?
No, if we said 50%, if we say
if 50% of the NBA drops and it was only white.
No, I said
would the standard go down?
I'm not hearing what I'm saying. If 50% of all new people going in the NBA were white, by decree, would the quality of play of the NBA decrease?
Would the quality of play in the NBA decrease?
Yeah.
No, if they're the same standard of basketball play.
Hold on, let's talk realistic.
Well, what are you saying realistically? You're asking me if
75% of the NBA is black. 75%.
So does that mean white players are less better, or does that mean
whites are not as good at basketball as blacks?
Okay. Everybody, calm down.
We got some big exceptions. We're very proud of Larry Bird. Okay.
No, he's good.
We're very proud of Luka and Nikola. However, the point being, let's implement DEI in the NBA. Okay. If all of a sudden 50% of all the players have to be white, which means they have to say no to otherwise good black players.
There was a time where this happened, right?
Well, no, of course, and the league wasn't as good. That's the point.
No, you understand that there was a time where the exclusion of African-American players was in the NBA, right?
No, for sure. I acknowledge that. And the league got better as blacks were allowed in.
Did it get better, or did we just integrate ourselves in?
Well, hold on. No, but wait,
the players in the league averages around that time weren't worse. We just got better.
Hold on. Do you actually think that, why is it that 75% of the NBA is black?
Right now?
Yeah.
I mean, well, it was a certain point around 1965
why
where
is
a
it?
law
Answer the
passed where
question.
we can actually...
Why is it that 75% of the NBA is black?
Because we integrated into the league.
No, because the best players are allowed to play in the NBA.
Well, actually, the best players in the NBA are European born.
Well,
They're not even African American.
I mean, a couple of them are. As I said, we're very proud.
No, we're very integrated within sports, but what does that prove?
That proves that the NBA is not built on DEI, it's built on excellence.
The NBA isn't proof. So when you mention DEI, you're now saying that it's...
You obviously don't know what DEI is. DEI...
I know what DEI is. You're not giving me a proper explanation.
DEI is racial quotas.
Racial quotas?
Yes. You've never heard of DEI before. So, do you know what a racial quota is? You have to have a certain amount of a certain race. That is what United Airlines did. Mm-hmm. We must get to 50% of our pilots to be black or women. Therefore, if the NBA said 50% of our players have to be white, I guarantee you, we could try to get as many Serbs and Croats as possible. It's not going to make the NBA the best league. Instead, the NBA has a policy of which the NBA and the FAA and the United Airlines should have the same policy. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It matters how good you are at what you do. So excellence matters.
Wait.
Hear this. I got to sign them ahead of time. Yes, sir.
Okay, we have officially went from a soundbite to hearing the statement in full context. You heard them both go back and forth covering the entire soundbite in full detail. So I'm going to start out with the first question. Now that you've went from a soundbite to hearing it in full context, did it change your mind at all? For folks who may have thought that Charlie Kirk's soundbite made him sound bigoted and racist, hearing it in full context, do you think it might change their mind and give them an epiphany? By the way, if it changed your mind, state it in the comments. If it did not change your mind whatsoever, state that in the comments as well. I'd like to hear, because now we're hearing it in context. That's what everybody is saying. You need to hear his statements in full context. Now, I want to start tackling some of the things that Kirk stated back and forth with the questionnaire. First thing the questionnaire asked him is, can we both agree that every single pilot has to go through FAA certifications, indicating it doesn't matter whether the pilot is black, Hispanic, or whatever the case may be, they still had to be certified by the FAA. That is the question that he was asking Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk responded back by saying, no, new lawsuits are showing that they are relaxing the standards. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, Charlie Kirk is a very good debater. He is very effective at his debating skills. He knows that lawsuits are mere allegations. Understand that. He said new lawsuits are showing that they're relaxing the standards. I really wish he had have stated that the courts have ruled that United or other airlines are relaxing the standards. But a lawsuit could be anything. I'll give you this one. Years ago, remember David Letterman, the late night talk show host? There was a woman that was indicating or suggesting that through the television screen, David Letterman was giving her subliminal messages, and she sued for that. David Letterman had never met the woman. She was hundreds of miles away in a different city from the studio, and she sued the woman. Now, she sued the host. Now, the case ended up getting tossed out. But the point I'm making is you can allege anything in a lawsuit. Fact is, many of the folks that support Charlie Kirk would dismiss any lawsuit alleging anything against President Trump. There are women that are accusing Trump in lawsuits of sexually assaulting him. You can make allegations of anything in a lawsuit. So I really don't like that Charlie Kirk used allegations as opposed to something that was actually etched in stone, such as a court ruling that they have relaxed standards and things like that to hire black pilots. I haven't heard any court ruling that officially United, Delta, American Airlines, or any other airline has officially relaxed the standards. So he's using somebody's allegations via a lawsuit as justification for why he's thinking the way he is, when, as I stated, Charlie Kirk knows how to debate, and he knows that that's just an allegation. My guess is if this debate was flipped and that questionnaire used some sort of lawsuit, Charlie Kirk, the first thing he would have said is, unless it's ruled by a judge, that's just an allegation. So I do want to point that one out. Okay, continuing on. He also pointed out that United Airlines wanted 50% of their pilots to be women or black. Now, there's more to it. Obviously, they wanted people of color. They didn't just want people that were black. So I don't know why he's talking about just a black pilot. They wanted it to be basically people of color or a woman. So they wanted a more diverse employee staff. But let's tackle what he said. He said they wanted 50% of their pilots to be women or black. Now, when United stated this, it was in the year 2021, and they indicated they wanted to complete this by 2030. So we're talking about a 9-year span. It's not we're going to just go out and start hiring starting tomorrow until we get 50% of our staff being women or people of color. We're talking 9 years. So the idea that these folks are not going to be trained or standards are going to be relaxed, well, you got 9 years before you even complete it, it kind of makes me wonder what Charlie Kirk is talking about. Because they want 50% to be women or people of color. But we could go up to the year 2028, and they're not expecting it to be that way yet. They want to do it by 2030. That is plenty of time to take someone who has no flight experience at all and get them fully trained to fly a commercial airline. 9 years. So I don't know what he's talking about. He's kind of making it sound like United Airlines is doing this right now where 50% of their pilots are people of color, or they're putting out a bunch of people that are not trained. Like I said, the best we're working with right now is that there were lawsuits stating it. But I haven't heard any of those lawsuits being ruled by an official court to be accurate. Let me know in the comments if you see otherwise. Because he started making a comparison to the NBA, and he talked about would the NBA be worse if 50% of the players were white? And he pointed out that currently the NBA is 75% black. I thought it was even more black than that, but I'll go with Charlie Kirk's numbers. 75% of the NBA are black. First thing I do want to point out, becoming a pilot, as long as you got a healthy mind, is something anybody can officially achieve. Playing in the NBA goes with natural ability and, things like the way you were born, biology and things like that. So I don't know if these two things in my opinion, let me know what you think in the comments, but in my opinion, I don't know if comparing something that is based on intelligence really works well with something that's based on natural God-given abilities, because it doesn't matter how much you practice playing basketball. If you're 5'1", you're never going to make the NBA. If you continue to focus from, coming out of high school to be a pilot, just about anybody can achieve that unless there's something really wrong with them. Maybe you're born with bad eyesight or something like that. But for the most part, anyone can be a pilot. Everyone can't make the NBA. So I don't know if it makes a lot of sense to compare the two, but we'll follow that path because that's where Charlie Kirk went. Would the NBA be worse if 50% of the players were white? On its surface, we would say probably, but I do want to point out a couple things. First of all, being a Gen Xer, only until recent have blacks not saw some sort of potential for success in avenues that are outside of athletics or music. If you grew up probably in the 80s or back, everybody was trying to get in athletics or music because academics was not really open to the black community. Lots of colleges wouldn't take you in. Lots of professions were discriminated against you. But that's not going that way now. Now you have a hell of a lot of blacks that can succeed in academic-related careers. So you don't have as many blacks that are gung-ho about playing basketball and being rap stars as you used to back then. That's my opinion. And I will tell you this, just like with United trying to make these changes starting in 2021 by the year 2030, giving them a 9-year time gap. If you wanted to make the NBA 50% white and you had 9 years to find really good players, I dare say you could do that and make the NBA just as entertaining as it is now. Because as the questioner pointed out, a lot of these folks are coming from Europe, and with 9 years, you got plenty of scouting time to find folks. And obviously, if whites know that they're going to be particularly focused on bringing many of us into the NBA, you're going to have a lot more kids with aspirations of joining the NBA. I'm not 100% certain either way on this one, but I will say that I don't think if you made it 50% white, the entertainment of the league would fall off that much. I'm not 100% sure of that. But we'll leave that one up to you in the comments. Continuing on, he said, if the NBA wanted 50% whites over 9 years, like United, and that's what I kind of agree. I'm just kind of reading my own notes here. But yeah, you got 9 years to make the NBA 50% white. That's plenty of time to find the best and brightest players. So in closing, I don't want this video to go on too long, but it does appear as if Charlie Kirk believes DEI equals racial quotas, and that just, equates to people coming on that's not qualified. Me personally, I do take heed to what the questioner said, is that just because you're trying to find people of a certain color does not automatically mean you're trying to find unqualified people. Doesn't matter what you do for a living. If I told you I need you to go find 10 more people of your color to do this, that don't mean the 10 people you go find are going to be unqualified. So I don't know why DEI and unqualified are synonyms with Charlie Kirk, but he did give his explanation. And last but not least, I do want to ask this question. State in the comments, what do you think? Now that you've heard this video in its entirety, talking about Charlie Kirk, you heard his soundbite about being concerned about a black pilot, versus now you've heard the entire conversation. Do you think the questioner that was asking him the questions, do you think Charlie Kirk's answers changed his mind? He obviously was concerned. That's the reason he stepped up and asked him the questions to begin with. Do you think that conversation changed that African-American gentleman's mind about whether or not Charlie Kirk's statement seemed intolerant? And I'm going to ask, did it change your mind? And I'd like to know how you felt about that soundbite before you actually heard the whole thing in full context. Did it change your mind whatsoever? Last but not least, giving my humble opinion, I think you either like Charlie Kirk or you don't. I think those sound bites, when you listen to them in full context, falls under the same category. If you could hear those sound bites and still support Charlie Kirk, listening to him in full context, you're not going to lose support for Charlie Kirk at all. If you heard those sound bites and thought that Charlie Kirk was some kind of bigot or intolerant or racist, hearing him in full context is probably not going to change your mind whatsoever. That's my humble opinion. Such as Charlie Kirk stating that Juneteenth should not be a federal holiday. You either agree with that or you don't. I don't think there's any context Charlie Kirk is going to come back with for why he don't think Juneteenth should be a federal holiday. And you're going to have a whole lot of people like, yeah, I guess that does make sense. Particularly among the ones that are claiming that he's racist or intolerant. And he said that in regards to several statements. The Civil Rights Act was a mistake and things like that. You either agree with him or you don't. Full context, let me know if it changes your mind any way, shape, or form. As always, feel free to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.